I call this meeting to order, the Administration and Public Works Committee meeting of Monday, June 26th.
Recording in progress.
May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Present.
With 4 present, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. That brings us first to the approval of the minutes for our June 12th meeting.
I'll move approval of those minutes.
Moved by Councilmember Newsma, seconded by Councilmember Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Noes? The ayes have it. That moves us on to public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We have Mike Vasilko online to speak on items A6 and A13.
Mr. Vasilko, you have 3 minutes. If you are, in
Can you
fact.
hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Just 2 quick things because of the noise in the background. I ask you to reject item A6, which is a Nissan Rogue vehicle. It's not an EV. I don't know why the staff keeps bringing non-EV vehicles to the councils for approval. I'd ask you to reject that. You got to send a message sooner or later. I'm also speaking now in favor of item A13. I think it's prudent that all contracts with the city in excess of $25,000 be approved by the city council. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasilko.
I was not used to the brevity, but thank you, Mr. Vasilko. That brings us to, if there's no further public comment, that brings us to approval of our consent calendar. Is there anything that folks would like to remove?
Looks like we have some time, so I will remove item A2 and A6.
Items A2 and A6.
Yeah, I want to do A3.
A5.
A2, A3, A5, and A6. Is that everything?
Let's take A2 off the list. I don't want to
We
belabor
will
the point.
put-
I thought if we had air to fill, I'd be happy to fill it,
We'll
but
put A2 back on. All right. Given that, may I have a motion?
And
Oh,
hold on, A4 as well. Contract.
A4. I'm sorry, what item was Councilmember Kelly's?
that was the last one.
I'll pull A13 off as well. All right, may I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Harris,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Newsma. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Excuse me, Chair Reed, can we do a roll call vote since Councilmember Harris is remote?
I am happy to do that, but not required from my understanding, but happy to do it. Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
and myself, aye. All right, so that brings us to item A3, approval of contract award with Capital Cement Co. Incorporated for the 2023 alley improvements. This is bid number 2327.
I'll make the motion on A3.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma, seconded by Councilmember
Aye.
Harris.
Second.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, and excuse me if this is in a memo. I'm not having the time to get through APW today. The A3, I just noticed the waste transfer settlement fund. Typically, when I see that, that involves an area around the waste transfer station. But is this a different fund, or is it the same fund? And it seems like it's going to funding a project that's outside of that area. I think it's on Main, unless I'm misunderstanding this.
Deputy Manager Stonebeck.
Good evening, Deputy Manager Stoneback. The waste transfer station funds are being used for the alley north of Lyons, west of Ashland Avenue, and that is within the area.
Okay,
And
I
then
don't know
this
where I
is-
saw Main at.
Be the last alley that's currently scheduled from these from this funding source. The alley by Main Street is actually being funded by the TIF, the main.
Oh, so these are they're doing a few different alleys. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're-
Okay, all right, that makes
correct.
sense. Because I
Lots
also
of
saw
alleys.
Chicago Main tax increment finance. Okay, so it's saying there are several alleys that we're doing, and this is the breakdown of how each will be funded. Okay, thank you.
My apologies. Do you know off the top of your head, does this include the alley that is adjacent to? No, okay, thank you. I've already gotten the answer. Thank you. With that, if there are no further questions on item A3, all those in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Any abstentions, any noes? All right. That moves us to item A4, approval of contract with Terra Engineering for engineering services for sidewalk improvement related to Safe Routes to School grant. This is RFQ 2318.
I'll move item A4.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma, seconded by
second.
Councilmember Burns. Any discussion on this item? Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, again, apologize if this is mentioned in the memo. This is eligible both for the LEP program, but also the DEBE goals. Is that correct?
Hello, my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the city engineer. So this project is funded through a state grant, Safe Routes to School, which is actually from the federal government
Yep.
and funneled through the state. And because of that, it is not eligible for local employment, and it utilizes the state of Illinois percentages for DBE.
So it says this project will be funded from the Capital Improvement Fund.
The construction of the project will be funded by the grant, and so it is not eligible for a local employment program. That doesn't apply to engineering services.
Okay,
So the engineering services are being funded locally.
perfect. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions on this item, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any abstentions? The ayes have it. That brings us to item A5, approval of contract with St. Francis Crematory and Kennels Incorporated for dead animal collection.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma, seconded by Councilmember Harris.
Question.
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
So it just seems like a high amount, and I wanted to know, is that standard? About how many animals a year are we doing that? Because it said it wasn't budgeted, so I'm just trying to make sure that makes fiscal sense to us. Is staff here?
Yes, Ms. Biggs is coming
Okay.
to the.
Thank you.
Hello, Laura Biggs, city engineer. That funding, that contract amount is based largely on collecting animals at the $180 per animal level, with a small percentage of emergency pickups at $300 per animal. It is an 18-month contract, so it is it is longer than 1 year. And future renewals, I suspect, will just be done in 1-year increments.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you. I'll approve this based on staff's recommendation, but this work does seem like the kind of thing that should be done in a house and could be done fairly cost effectively. In fact, the last thing I did before coming to the Civic Center this evening was dispose of a cute little dead chipmunk in our yard, and that did not take $180 worth of effort. So I'll vote to approve this, but I think we can staff up for this kind of thing in-house.
I will just state, cute little dead chipmunks are not really our challenge. Cute little dead skunks are the major issue that we have and the nuisance that they generate odor-wise. And we just don't have dedicated staff and vehicles for picking up skunks. And the odor of skunks permeates the vehicle and the staff that handle them pretty thoroughly. And for that reason, we've struggled with keeping an animal control warden whose primary job it was to pick up dead animals. When we have tried to shuffle that to public works, such as when the animal control warden position is vacant, the public works staff that deal in sanitation are not really well suited. They don't have the training to deal with animals that might be dead or critically injured, but not quite dead when the call comes in. And we don't have a vehicle that is going to Swank to dispose of the animals every day. And anytime we've tried to store skunks, it's created such an odor problem that it's just become incredibly unpleasant. So our hope by contracting this out is to make sure that the animal control warden is not a revolving staff position anymore, and to support our public works staff that really haven't got the training and the dedicated vehicles for disposing of dead animals.
Thank you. Seeing no further, oh,
I just had a statement. It would be my hope at $120,000 that potentially we could get somebody trained and get the materials needed and keep, like Councilmember Nusma said, and figure out potentially down the road keeping that in-house. Somebody will take the job at that price. Thank you.
thank you. I will also add that it'd be nice to have this in-house. There is, particularly if we hire an Evanston resident. Also, I think this is one place where we can maybe use a euphemism and maybe deceased wildlife retrieval and disposal services in the future, or something to disguise what that is a bit. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes, abstentions? The ayes have it. That moves us to item A6, approval of a purchase of one 2023 Nissan Rogue for the Parking Enforcement Division of the Administrative Services Department.
Councilmember Reed, before we move forward, I just don't know if my eye was registered. I was on mute. So
Oh.
for record, I want to be clear. Sorry.
Yes. Is there a motion for item A6?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember
Second.
Nusma. Is there any discussion?
Maybe if we could ask staff to address the electric vehicle issue that
Yes.
was raised.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. Sean Cholik, Facilities and Fleet Management. So yes, to address the questions about the EV option, currently, we are proactively looking to replace vehicles with EV options when they're available. Currently, we have this vehicle, existing vehicle in parking enforcement, which is giving us some trouble, reoccurring issues. And so it's a candidate to go right now. We don't want to keep sinking money into it. Currently, we have 11 EVs. We've recently ordered and received 11 EVs, bringing our total in the city to 13. However, our charging stations are limited. We are in the process of setting up some more permanent locations, but right now we're trying to just plug in equipment wherever we can, bringing it into the fleet bays at night, just trying to get it set up temporarily, or utilizing the charge point stations that are in the Civic Center parking lot. But that, of course, then takes away stations that the public can use. So we are starting to reach out for specs and quotes on 2024 purchases right now, and we're anticipating, obtaining a couple more EVs. But we're also awaiting the final fleet right-sizing and electrification study, so that we have something that we can make more informed decisions with.
When do we expect that study?
That study was expected at the end of this month. However, staff had reviewed it with the consultant, and there were a number of items that we think kind of need to be adjusted a little bit to get, more reliable information in there. So we are working with the consultant. I don't think there's a set time for it, but I would hope that it would be within the next month or so.
All right, so looking ahead, there will be a point, at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, where all we buy is electric vehicles. We
Correct.
don't know exactly when that's going to be.
We don't know what that rollout looks like. It's all dependent on, the technology and what types of vehicles are able to be EV options, but that is the goal.
Depends on the availability, it depends on the market.
Correct.
It depends on the price. It also depends on our infrastructure. But is it safe to say that even now, before we get this study, that whenever we can buy an electric vehicle, we do?
Yes, that is our goal. If the fit is the right goal, or if the fit is the right one for the operations, it's our goal to pick up that vehicle as an EV option. In fact, we recently had one vendor that we've worked with presented us with an option for another EV van, but currently we don't have the need for another EV van. We've done what we can and have procured what we can for the number of charging facilities that we have. So
Great, thank you.
it's definitely on our radar.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a question, if there are no further questions. So, can you repeat for me what the barrier is? What I think I'm hearing, because this is a vehicle that certainly is, there is an electric alternative.
Correct.
So that's not the barrier here. Can you repeat what the barrier is?
Sure. So I guess just to reiterate, there's a couple different barriers. The first being that, we have a vehicle that's problematic right now, has been going through the same issues over and over again, no matter how many times we get it fixed. So we want to, first off, take that out of service so that we're not.
So, yeah, I get that. What
Right.
is the barrier to purchasing an electric vehicle in this case?
So to continue with that first point, so availability is number one, right? Having one that's readily available. There's nothing that we found that's readily available to replace this with electric. So that's the first barrier. Second barrier is the charging stations. We're currently working on a plan to get charging stations put in permanently for city use for the last 11 vehicles that we purchased. It's kind of, we put the cart before the
Right.
horse a little bit, and we're trying to catch up on that. But we also need a longer-term solution of, having enough charging stations to keep adding to the fleet, EVs to the fleet. So that's going to take some coordination with the capital improvement team and coordination with our consultant that's doing this study to help roll that out.
So those are the two barriers?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the charging station concern, maybe this is for Lucas or Mike, are our public EV charging stations fully utilized?
Look, Tatara, interim manager of the parking. Yes, they are utilized all the time. We have plenty of our residents or visitors in the city using our parking garages stations. Also, we have some stations in the surface parking lot. And I want to also add to Sean, there's a third barrier, it's the money. EV vehicles are much more expensive than the regular right now. So I also help Sean with the purchase of the vehicles. Availability of the cars is number one, but also the price. Some of the vehicles are almost 30 to 40, even 50% more expensive. So right now, just not sinking money to one of the equipment, it's better just to buy the new one versus spending money on something which we have to replace anyway.
Okay, well, and then to the availability, when you say that there aren't, I feel like as a private consumer, I could go out and find an electric vehicle of this sort. So what is the barrier for the municipality finding?
So, yeah, we keep our feelers out with different vendors out there. We haven't found any readily available on lots besides the last couple that we've ordered. Anytime you have a lead on one, we'd be happy to hear about it. But, there's also the idea that we want to keep some things somewhat, the same across the board, right? We don't want this manufacturer here and then this manufacturer here. It makes it a little more confusing for our mechanics, and also, stocking regular parts becomes a little bit of a nightmare. So if there's any that you know of that are out there. But the other thing too is getting, having a vendor that'll match the government pricing that we typically get.
Do we have similar model electric vehicles in our fleet currently? Or comparable, I should say?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the
So,
question.
do we have a vehicle within our fleet currently that is electric that is comparable to a Nissan Rogue?
No, nothing right now that I can think of. It's, we have vans and we have some Chevy Bolts.
Okay. Well, certainly, I think this is a wake-up call. And did I hear this correct? Our EV stations are at 100% utilization, 90%, 80%?
So for the customers, they're available. For us as a fleet, they're not available because if we plug in our vehicles overnight, then nobody else can use them. So they are available during the day, but this is hard to find during the night. And also for the operation logistics point of view, it's hard to scatter our vehicles outside the yards just to charge them downtown and stuff like this. This is for sure something we're working for to make sure we have more stations available for our fleet. But this is just the growing pains of switching from gasoline to electric.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions on this item?
And I'm sorry, I just wanted to thank Lucas for pointing out that barrier number 3. It's just become a struggle so much that I completely forgot about it. But the cost is a big issue. And, as we plan the 2024 budget, we will be asking finance for more money.
Do we calculate the long-term cost, with fuel and maintenance and other costs?
So that is something that our consultant is going to be looking into for us, yes.
Okay, because I don't know this for a fact, but I think our environmental team might have an argument that in the long run, there is a savings there, potentially.
Yeah, there will definitely be a savings on maintenance. It's, that I think we're going to see. Time will tell, I guess.
Okay. So then maybe cost isn't a barrier in the long run. Okay, thank you very much. And hopefully we can make sure that the charging infrastructure is not a barrier and availability is outside of our control. All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. That moves us on to our last item of the day, which is item A13, which is ordinance 62023, amending Title I, Chapter 17, Section 1, purchases of goods and services. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma, seconded by Councilmember Burns. I pulled this off of the agenda. I didn't know that Councilmember Kelly would not be here today. So I just want to be clear on this. I know the intention of this policy, but I don't know who maybe best can answer, legal or... if there is part of my understanding of the intention of this is that if there is, for example, a settlement with an employee or some payout beyond their regular salary, that those kinds of items would have to be approved essentially on the bills list. Would this accomplish that?
Thank you, Chair Reed. Alex Ruggie, Deputy City Attorney. Yes, this would accomplish that. If there is a separation agreement or payout beyond the normal salary, this will appear. If there's been a claim filed, like through EEOC, IDHR, or a lawsuit, that will appear as a resolution on top of the bills list. Otherwise, they will be on the bills list and it'll be approved by City Council.
Okay. Well, is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing no further discussion on this item, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you. Seeing no further business before us, the Administration and Public Works Committee is done with their work, and Planning and Development will begin at 5:45.